Hi, grade 5. Today's lesson is about animal life cycles, so please pay attention. As we know, all living things grow and reproduce, and so of course, all animals need to have a life cycle. What is a life cycle made up of? It's made up of stages. So the stages that a living thing goes through from birth to death or throughout its entire life is called a life cycle. Now animals have different type of life cycles. Some animals, they don't really change a lot as they're growing. They simply just get bigger in size. For example, birds, mammals, and reptiles. They just simply get bigger. However, we have a different type of life cycle called a metamorphosis. As you know, meta is a Latin word which means to change, okay? So metamorphosis means it's a life cycle where the animal really changes a lot, such as amphibians and insects. They grow by a special life cycle called a metamorphosis. We already studied about them in grade 3 and 4. As you know, there's a complete metamorphosis and an incomplete metamorphosis. So here we are looking at examples of a life cycle that's a metamorphosis and another life cycle that's not a metamorphosis. For example, a turtle. A turtle is a reptile. Most reptiles don't grow by a metamorphosis. They simply get bigger, okay? They have all the body parts that the young turtle has as an adult, but they just simply get bigger in size. However, a butterfly, as you know, it grows by a special life cycle called a metamorphosis because the animal is changing a lot, okay? The larva looks very different from the pupa and the pupa looks very different from the adult. That's why this life cycle is called a metamorphosis. And as we talked in the beginning of the school year, that all life cycles, especially for animals and plants as well, it starts from a special cell called the fertilized egg or the zygote. Okay? Now, the fertilized eggs of birds and reptiles are protected by a shell. Birds have a hard shell to protect the fertilized egg inside, and reptiles have a leathery shell that protects the fertilized egg inside. And they develop outside the mother's body. Okay, so the eggs of birds and reptiles, as you know, when they lay them, they will grow, the organism will grow outside of the mother's body, and it's going to be protected by either a hard shell or a leathery shell. Here you can see an example of the chicken's egg. The fertilized egg of birds is protected by a hard shell. So inside of the yolk there's the fertilized egg. It's going to grow and become a new animal, okay? And the yolk is going, and the egg yolk and the egg white, they're going to provide nutrition for the growing fertilized egg. Now, the fertilized egg of reptiles is covered by a leathery shell. Reptiles like snakes and turtles and crocodiles. Now, this picture is showing fertilization in mammals. As you already know, the fertilized egg is formed when a sperm fertilizes the ovum. So we're going to have a fertilized egg, and the fertilized egg in mammals is going to remain inside of the female's body, and it's going to grow into a new organism. Okay, it is not released outside, it stays inside, and it's not protected by a hard shell or by a leathery covering, unlike birds and reptiles. So as we just said, the fertilized egg in mammals grows inside the mother's body, and that's why mammals get pregnant, because they have a fertilized egg growing inside of them. So the fertilized egg, of course, is going to grow into a new organism. In humans, as you know, this can take about 40 weeks or 9 months to happen for the fertilized egg to form a new organism. The life cycle of humans, this is in your book on page 216. It starts after the newborn is born. There's the infant stage, and then the toddler stage, and then the child stage, the young adult, and of course the mature adult. So this is the life cycle of humans. Okay, the toddler is when the baby starts to walk and talk. Okay, a child is the stage you are in. A bird's life cycle, of course, it changes from an egg to a hatchling and then to an adult, okay? So, from an egg to a hatchling, a duck changes as it grows. As we said, the fertilized egg of birds, it grows outside the female's body and it's protected by a hard shell. So the important question is, what makes adults different from their young? As you can see, the young animals kind of look like the older animals in birds and in mammals because their life cycle, remember, is not a metamorphosis in birds, reptiles, and mammals. Adult animals can live on their own, they can take care of themselves, and adult animals can reproduce while young animals cannot reproduce or make offspring. So this is how adults are different from young animals. So all animals, they have a life cycle. Of course, it includes birth and then growth and then reproduction and eventually death. As you know, all organisms have to die, okay? So today we talked about the life cycles of birds, mammals, and reptiles that are not a metamorphosis. In the next video, we will talk about or revise metamorphosis. That's usually done by amphibians and insects.